I am your host, Jess Williamson, an award-winning business and mindset coach and a serial entrepreneur having scaled 4 successful businesses. My purpose is to help you unleash your unique superpowers and to build the life and business of your dreams. Let's get into today's episode. Today, I have Alicia Penhorwood joining me on the podcast. Alicia is a marketing strategist and the founder of Harper Collective with over a decade of experience. Alicia works with brands to help them gain clarity through strategy, create an impact with meaningful content, and amplify their message through PR. So Alicia and I are chatting about the 3 mistakes that you're probably making in your marketing and how you can overcome them. So let's get into the episode. Hey Alicia, how are you?
I'm so good and I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to chat because we're going to talk all things marketing and doing the right things and not overcomplicating everything. But before we jump into that, I would love to start with where it all started. Tell us about your journey to get here.
Yeah. So originally when I went to university, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I ended up trying out a whole different bunch of things. I did some fashion styling, I did some work in magazines, and I just pretty much tried everything out. But when I went and I interned with a PR agency, that's where I was like, this is what I love. And I went on to work in PR for a good couple of years within some agencies in the city. And then I sort of grew up a bit, I guess. And I went, you know what? This way of working is not sustainable in the long term. Like, it was lots of early hours, late nights, big events, and I just knew that I didn't want to work at that pace forever. So I thought, well, what are my options here? And I thought maybe I could start my own business. And it literally just sort of came to a head one day, and I walked into the office for the company I was working with, and I just said, you know, this isn't working out for me. And I wrapped things up and I went on to launch my own agency without really any plan B. I just kind of launched into it, and I was very lucky to fall on my feet, and I landed some amazing clients, and one of them I still work with today. So that's
amazing.
6 years ago, which is incredible. And at the moment, what I'm doing is really shifting more into marketing strategy. It's something that I've always done with my clients, and it's always been that thing that just lights me up. And I'm so passionate and excited when I'm doing marketing strategies for people. So I've gone, you know what, I'm just going to really lean into this. And it's been amazing to work with a lot more people and just to have different ways that I can work with people outside of just an agency.
Absolutely. I think there's a few things there I want to chat about. So the idea to start a business, now obviously it's kind of a scary thought for a lot of people. Where did that idea come from? Or did you just think, look, I just don't want to work for anyone else anymore? Or what ran through your mind when you were like, I'm just going to quit and start my own business?
I think one of my biggest driving forces is freedom. And I just thought, what way can I create more freedom in my life? And I was really thinking about my future self and what life I wanted to create for myself in the future. And I knew that if I stayed where I was, you know, I was going to get, you know, a few more years under my belt. I was already working with amazing international brands and clients. And I just thought, this is not the life that I want to create for myself. So I literally just went for it. And I've been very lucky. Both my parents have, you know, run businesses and that sort of thing. So I've definitely grown up around entrepreneurial people. So it wasn't anything that was unfamiliar for me. So I definitely just, had that courage to just go for it.
That's amazing. And I think so many people get stuck in the what if, thinking of the worst case scenario, like if I quit my job, I'm going to lose my house and I'm going to lose everything that I have and all of these thoughts. And the problem is if you don't believe that you're going to be successful in business, you're probably not going to be, because you're going to be acting in a way that creates that reality. And so it's a bit of a catch-22. And so it's just amazing that you had that belief and that confidence that I'm just going to quit this because it's not working for me anymore. And I do see a lot of people staying at jobs just because they feel like they have to, in a way.
It definitely got to the point where I was just like, this is not aligning with the person that I want to be. And that's the one thing I always say as well is, I didn't just go from a 9 to 5 and launch my business and it was, smooth sailing. I ended up actually taking up a nannying job. So that was a bit of a different shift. And I would look after 3 kids from the afternoon into the evening every day. And then I would use the mornings to build my business. And it was actually such a perfect thing to fall into because it gave me that space to be creative in my business, building it, but also that security. And I did that as long as I could until I felt confident that I could really step into doing it on my own.
And I think that's awesome, because it obviously gave you a little bit more of that freedom and flexibility that you were seeking than where you are at currently.
Yeah, I always love to include that because it wasn't like I just magically clicked my fingers and went into a fully set up business.
Yeah, I love that. Obviously now you've got a successful agency, you're helping clients and small businesses and all sorts of amazing brands with their marketing and strategy. I want to dive into some marketing and strategy because we have lots of business owners listening to this podcast. So I wanted to chat specifically around creating a marketing strategy that feels aligned to you. So I think this is a great segue because we've just chatted about creating a business that aligns to you and what you love. So what do you think the biggest, mistake is that people make when they go to do their marketing currently?
There's a few. So what I see when people come to me is their mind is overwhelmed with all these things that they think they should be doing. And often that comes from looking at what everyone else is doing and comparing their business to, say, 3 to 5 other businesses, and then going, okay, so I need to do everything that all of these businesses are doing with their marketing, and I needed to do it yesterday. Otherwise, I'm not going to get ahead. So I think what I love to do is really come in and simplify everything and get really intentional with who do we actually want to connect with, and how much capacity do you actually have? How much budget do you have? And then build a strategy that is aligned with all of those things. Instead of looking outside of ourselves, actually coming back to what is the essence of your brand? What are your own goals for both yourself and your business? And then building a strategy around that. Because I often find that we already know the answers within ourselves, but we're kind of just looking at all these other things and distracting ourselves with all of the shiny, fun, quick win things instead of really setting strong foundations for ourselves.
There's so much in that, and I love this. And this is why I was excited to have you on the podcast, because this is something that I talk about all of the time as well. But I think it's really, really amazing coming from you as a marketing and strategy expert working in this day to day. It's something that I see really common with my clients as well in the coaching space. So I think that that's such an important tip to notice. Now, you said there was a few things. So that was one of them. What else would you say is one of the biggest, mistakes or misconceptions that people are doing when it comes to their marketing currently?
So there would be 2 more things that I would add in that I see. The next one would be doing things, so planning out marketing campaigns and strategies from a place of feeling like you should. And that's the way that everyone else is doing it. So that's just the way that it's done. And whenever I build my marketing strategies with clients, we'll map everything out around them. And then I'll always say to them, does this feel good to you? Because if they're the one who has to implement it in their business, I want them to feel really excited and lit up and ready to just go for it. Whereas if they're doing something and they go, I know that I should be doing this, but it doesn't really feel exciting and actually feels a little bit boring. We don't want to go down that road, because I really feel like your audience and your customers, they can feel the energy that you're bringing to things in your business. So you want to be really excited about it. So that is one thing that I would say is really check in with yourself and go, does this feel good? If not, could I tweak it in some way that would feel exciting and I'd be really passionate to deliver this to my customers? The next thing would be knowing when you're becoming the bottleneck to your own growth. So the next thing that I see is when we're in a place that we're sort of feeling stuck and we don't know which direction to go in with our marketing, we're either stuck on one thing that we've totally blown out of proportion, which happens a lot when we work from home, because I think it can be quite isolating. And sometimes we don't have, those people in the office to bounce ideas off and bounce problems off and just find solutions quickly. So that's one way that we can become a bottleneck. Another way is throwing decisions out to everyone and overwhelming ourselves with what everyone else thinks that we should be doing, instead of coming back to what is your vision for your business? Where do you want to go? And how do you want to make people feel about your business? And, when you're not in the room, what do you want people to be saying about your business? And come back to those things and make a decision from that space, instead of throwing your questions out to everyone else and waiting for them to answer it. That's where I see people sort of get stuck with their marketing.
Oh, 100%. I want to quickly unpack a couple of those things. So the problem is, I think a lot of people don't even realize they're doing this a lot of the time, or they think that it's just the right way or the done way to do things. So what would you say to someone, or how would they know if they're maybe falling into one of these things?
So I guess the first one to know if you are falling into sort of trying to do all the bright, shiny things is that you have too many things on your plate when it comes to marketing, and you're not actually implementing any of them 100%. So you're kind of, I guess, doing like a little bit here, a little bit there, and nothing is really consistent. You're just trying a bunch of different things. And I think it's always good to try different things, but when we're constantly doing that, we're not actually seeing the results from things with our marketing. So I like to choose a few things that are going to connect you with your target audience, and then really set aside some time to truly implement them, and then sit down after that time and look at what are the results. Did this work? What have we learned from this? Is there different types of content that we should be creating? Are there things that, didn't really work out? Should we just scrap those? And be really clear and intentional about what you're doing with your marketing, instead of just going, oh, that looks cool. Yeah, let's quickly implement that. That would be one of them. The next thing that I would say is, if things are not feeling good, that's something that you sort of have to sit with yourself, and you'll know that within your own self if things are feeling good or if they're sort of feeling a little bit forced.
What I'm seeing now is almost the opposite of happening, and people are saying, it doesn't feel good, so I'm not going to do it. And then they sit back and just wait. So how would you decipher between maybe a fear or a limiting belief that maybe not feeling good, or that this content and this marketing is not aligned with me? Because this is actually something that I chat through with my clients quite a bit. And I work with a lot of introverts in business. And so I always make sure that I'm clear that if it doesn't feel good, such as, oh, I don't like public speaking, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, or you shouldn't show up online, or you shouldn't do these things. We can build the confidence, but there's a difference on, this doesn't align to me and my values, and this is a little bit scary.
Definitely. What I would say is is it something that's sort of pushing you out of your comfort zone? For me, I don't love showing up on Instagram stories. That's definitely me stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm a little bit excited, a little bit nervous, and I know that it's going to bring great things to my business. And one of the things it does is help me connect with people. So you sort of know that feeling when you're coming out of your comfort zone. When things don't feel good, I've done marketing strategies and campaigns in my own business before from that place of thinking, well, this is what I should do. This is what, people say works. And you'll just find that it feels quite heavy and that nothing is really working. It's almost like it's a bit clunky. And when you come away from it and you go, is this actually what I want to be doing? Is this how I want to show up in my business? If the answer is no, then usually things need to tweak. And sometimes it's only a slight tweak, but you've got to come back into yourself and really tune into, is this a fear that maybe I'm overcoming and I'm stepping out of my comfort zone? Or am I doing something because I think that I should be doing it instead of, I know that this feels really aligned and there's something great on the other side of this. So it's sort of getting a bit in touch with ourselves as business owners.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable. So we had, when you were asking everyone else for their opinions and things, that one's a little bit more obvious because they probably are taking those actions, but people still think it's the right thing to do. I definitely have been there. I thought, let me ask my family and friends if they could afford my swimwear when I had my swimwear brand. And they all said, no, that's way too expensive, but they weren't my target audience at all.
And I think this is such a big one for introverts. Like, I'm such an introvert as well. So what I find is that when I'm feeling a little bit stagnant or stuck, it's often because I've just used up too much energy being around other people, and I need to create that space to come back inwards and to really be quiet and connect with myself. So what I would say is, if you are feeling like a bit overloaded and you're feeling a bit stuck, you don't know what direction to go in, if you can, I even recommend it for extroverts as well, but create some space for yourself just to be quiet and still. Maybe it's journaling or meditating, whatever it is for you, but come back into yourself and then think about the decision. And often I find when we create that space, like whenever I go for a walk down at the beach, the solutions drop in really quickly. It's when I'm sort of like pushing for that answer that it's really difficult for it to come to you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're actually speaking my language. Everything you're saying, I'm like, this just sounds like everything I preach. It's so good because it's coming from a different perspective. And like, we can't reiterate this enough for people to stop overcomplicating business, marketing, just life in general, and come back to what feels good, what's right for us. And we get so clouded with 1,000,001 messages these days. We've got notifications, we're accessible 24/7. We've got all these other messages, and it can definitely take us away from who we really are at the center, or take us away from what we truly value. And our judgment can get cleared by what other people define as success and all of these things. And so I think this has been so valuable in terms of applying those ideologies to marketing as well.
Definitely. And I think, it's not really spoken about enough. There's all the tactics you can use and all the quick wins and ideas out there, which, just a quick Google search and you can find answers. But I don't think it's often enough that we actually tune into ourselves and what feels right to us.
100%. So do you have a routine, or do you do anything where you each day check in with yourself, or is it just something that you intuitively feel and then know that, okay, I need some time?
So it's definitely a work in progress. I have a few different things in my toolkit that I use. So I try to start each morning where I would just journal my thoughts and get everything out of my head onto paper. And it just helps me start the day with a really clear mindset. So that's one thing that I do. And if ever I'm stuck on a decision, I will just journal it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm all about imperfection. And just get it out onto paper. So that's one thing that I do. And what else do? I do meditation often, but really for me, just getting out and being in nature is the quickest way to come back to yourself, I feel.
Yeah, awesome. Do you go for walks in the bush, or are you more of a beach girl, or where do you go?
I'm definitely a bit of both. And I have a little puppy, Harlow, so she always is like, let's go, let's get outside. So that's a good excuse as well.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's so good. If you could give anyone in business one last tip when it comes to their marketing strategy, what would that be?
I would say really get to know who you're speaking to. And I would say build a customer persona for them, learn everything that you can about them and actually have conversations with them. Often I find when I work with people, the answers are just, a quick text away. It's a quick message on Instagram, because sometimes, what this whole conversation has been about is we overcomplicate our marketing and our business when really the answers are there for us. So really get to know who's that customer, and can you spark up a conversation with them to get to know them on even a deeper level? And once you know them, really weave in that storytelling. So I had a conversation with a client this morning, and we were talking about her new offering, and she was mapping out all the facts about the offering. And, she was sort of saying, like, I feel like I should really state all these facts on the website. And I said, you could, or you could tell me a story about how those facts about that offering has impacted one of your clients' lives. What transformation have they achieved from those elements of your offering? And when we started talking about it, we were both like, wow, this is so much more potent than just going, my offering does X, Y, Z. So I think really get to know the people. How can you serve them? And always have them in mind when you're planning your marketing. And if ever you feel like you've sort of gone off track or you've gotten a bit lost on the Instagram scroll, just sit down, write about, what does my customer need from me? And then come back to that and then plan your marketing from that place would be my top tip.
Oh, amazing. I think that's sometimes the hardest part for people, but I think you've made it really simple in terms of you just have a chat with someone and find out about them. But people do overcomplicate it, and they're like, where do I find all the data? And then they're looking at the Australian Business Bureau of Statistics and all this crazy stuff. And it's like, that doesn't really tell you who they are,
I know, and I think this is sort of the last thing that I'll also share is that's one of the biggest, this can be my business tip. One of the biggest ways that I've grown my business has been through connections. And it's really getting to know people, what sort of dog do they have? What's their dog's name? What do they love doing on weekends? Do they love to make elaborate cheese boards, or do they love to go somewhere on a weekend trip? And really get to know people. And when you do talk to them and you have meetings with them, bring those things up, because I think networking is such a powerful tool for our business, and I don't think that we do it enough. And the more that you can know about your customer or the people in your network, the more that you can tailor things. So you can tailor what you talk about on social media. You can personalize your newsletter campaigns. There's so many things that you can do when you really take the time to get to know people. And you never know where a conversation may lead to. So I always say, just go for it.
Oh my gosh, so many things in this in this podcast episode. So hopefully everyone's taken down some notes. Otherwise, they can come and listen to this episode again. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge when it comes to marketing and marketing strategies, and just aligning and simplifying and making life a little bit more easy and fun. So I think it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
What an episode. That was so much fun. And as you can tell, Alicia aligns so much with everything that I am on board with. And so I hope you got a lot out of that episode. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a review and let me know what you think of this episode and podcast. But also make sure you screenshot and share it to your Instagram stories and tag me and also Alicia at Harper Collective. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.